You've always heard sergers are a perfect place for a thicker decorative thread. One of my favorites is the Razzle Dazzle thread, and it says for bobbin work, couching, and for my serger. Now usually decorative thread that is heavier needs to go through the upper looper, the lower looper, or both. So since I just have one spool of this, I'm going to put in my upper looper, and today I have it set on stitch number 6, which is a 3-thread overlock wide. So everything is going to be the same, except I'm going to need to let the serger know by loosening the tension to allow for the thicker thread for it to give me the stitch that I'm looking for. So this is just a fun edge that I could put on something that's a little bit thicker. Because I have the left needle in, I'm going to see more of this decorative thread. So I'm going to show you how to tie on and pull through your decorative threads. And I say tie on and pull through because the air threading system usually is not going to push the thicker thread through. So you want to tie it and then just kind of pull it through like you're pulling a fish line and you're pulling the decorative thread through the serger. So when you take your scissors, you always want to cut back here, cut closer to the spool. If you cut closer to the machine, you don't have a lot of area or thread to tie onto. So leave yourself a nice long tail back here. And since this spool is not going to need a cone holder, remove this so it's sitting right on the back of the machine base. Now the knot that people always ask me is like, well, what knot do I tie? So this is how I describe it. Put both ends together here and then tie a knot like you're tying a balloon. So I'm going to just take them both in my hands, it's called an overhand knot. And then as you pull that tight, that will also create a small enough knot to easily scoot all the way through this machine. I am going to trim it down just a little bit. I've left about a 1/2 inch. And as I open up the door, I can also lift up the presser foot, that will release the tensions, get a hold of the chain here, pull it a little bit, snip off the chain, and then find the thread you tied the decorative thread to. So here it is. This one's my pink one. You might just need to help it just a little bit. You'll see the knot travel here. It'll go right down those holes. And then just keep pulling until you see it come out the side. Next, let's go ahead and open up our tension area. And this is our red thread. So we're going to go ahead and adjust that down to a much looser amount, just enough so when we stitch, we'll definitely have a little bit more relaxing of that area. So I'm going to leave the tension screen on, and I can also lengthen my stitch length. So if it does look like it's piling up. Now I can see that I need a little bit more strength on that lower looper. So let's go ahead and tighten that up. So how do you know? Well, if you can't loosen this any further, you're going to need to tighten the other one. And I'll show you the difference as I start to see. So let's go ahead and go up to 2.5 here. We'll start there. And you'll see how it's pulling it out to the edge, which is the look that I'm after. So see, at the beginning, I was getting way too much pulled to the top side, but at the end, it was kind of touching the edge, which is what I was going for. Now remember, I didn't adjust the stitch length just yet, but if I did, it would spread this out a little bit and make it so I wasn't using as much of the decorative thread. But it does look like a satin stitch, and that's really the boldness that I was going for. So just keep that in mind. You got to tie on your decorative threads, pull it through the machine, and adjust the tension. Whether you adjust less on the decorative thread, start there, and then on the opposite side is to go ahead and tighten up the other side, especially if you only have one of the decorative threads in the looper. So we're kind of doing a thick thread versus a non-thick thread, and so we're finding the balance to make it look the way you want it to look. So I hope you'll try out some decorative threads on your serger. There's lots to pick from, and I can't wait to see some of your looks that you come up with.